welcome to Remy's Fashion. My name is Remy. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to draft a corset pattern with a shoulder, an armhole, and a basque waistline. So let's get started. Is to draw out my starting point. My starting point is going to serve as my shoulder line. So I'm going to write shoulder line. The next thing I'm going to do is to measure and draw out my vertical measurements. So that's from my shoulder to my bust, shoulder to my underbust, shoulder to my waistline, and shoulder to the length of my top. Shoulder to my bust is 12 inches. My underbust is 16 inches. My waistline, which is my half length, is 19 inches. And I'm going to be using the length of my top to be 25 inches because of the basque effect. And then I'll draw a horizontal line across. And then after drawing them out, I'm going to label my lines. So the next thing I'm going to do is to measure out my shoulder measurement on my shoulder line. So my shoulder measurement is 18 inches. By the time I divide that by 2, it's going to give me 9 inches. So I'm just going to measure 9 inches on here and I'll mark. And then I'm going to measure out my neck width and my neck depth. I'm just going to be using the standard one. I can change it later. And the standard one is 3 inches by 3 inches for the front. But I'm going to be changing that later. The next thing is to slope my shoulders because our shoulders are not straight. I'm going to slope it by 1 inch and I'm going to connect to the width of my neckline. The next thing I need to do now is to draft out my chest line. And to get that, I need my armhole line. And for that, mine is 9 inches after calculations. And that's your bust circumference measurement divided by 6 and then you add 1.5 inch. So after calculations, mine is 9 inches. So I'm going to measure 9 inches down here. I'll mark. And then I'll bring down my shoulder measurement down here. And my shoulder measurement after calculation is 9 inches. And then I will draw a horizontal line to connect my points. And this is my chest line. I'll connect this down to give me my armhole line. This will help me to draw in the curve. The next thing is I will take the midpoint of this line. This line is 9 inches. The midpoint for me is 4.5. I'll mark. And then I'll go in by half an inch because I want to draw out my armhole curve. So to get the armhole curve, I also need my bust circumference measurement, which I'm going to be plotting in on my chest line. And mine, after calculation, is 11 inches. My bust circumference measurement is 44. Divided by 4 is going to give me 11 inches. I'm going to measure 11 inches here. And then the next thing I need to do now is to create my armhole curve. So I'm going to connect from here to here to here. And this is my armhole curve. So the next thing we need to do now is to draw out our dart. And for that, we need our bust span measurement, which is also known as our nipple to nipple measurement. So mine is 4.5 inches after calculation. I'm going to measure that on my bust line, under bust line, waistline, and the length line. And then on the bust line, I'm going to go down by 1 inch. This is where I'm going to be drawing my dart to when I'm drawing my dart legs. And then I'll connect my points. On the waistline, I'm going to open up my dart by half an inch on each side. That's a total of 1 inch. And then I'll connect upwards. I'll connect downwards as well to meet my top length. So I'm going to extend this line upwards. The next thing I need to do now is to get the midpoint of our shoulder line. And then I will now connect from the shoulder to the bust point. Like this. The next thing we're going to do now is to draft out the radius of our bust. So you take your measurement from your bust point to your under bust. So whatever you get is what you're going to measure round. Okay, so whatever yours is, that's what you're going to take round to form a circle. If you have a compass, you can use it to give you that circle. So I have a compass, so this is what I'm going to be using. So I'm going to put it here, and this is the radius of my circle. Here, I'm going to draw out my circle. So this is my circle. I'm going to be tracing it out with my marker pen so that you can see clearly what I'm doing. So this is my circle. So after doing that, the next thing we're going to do is to do our underbust tightening. So on this underbust, I'm going to go out by 1/2 inch on each side. And then I'm going to connect downwards to the length line. I'll do the same thing for the other side. I'm going to draw a straight line down to the length line from the 1/2 inch. So after doing that, I'll take my curve ruler and then I'm going to connect using a curve to this point where the dart ends. I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. Like this. So after drawing these two lines and drawing these darts, the next thing I'm going to do is to take the measurement of what we have here. Mine is 1.5 inch. So I'm going to bring it up here and then I'm going to give more to this side. That's the center front. So 1.5, I'm going to give 0.5 inch to this side. Side front, 0.5 on the side front. And then 1 inch to the center front. And then I'm going to connect to the bust point using my curve. To increase further tightening, I'm going to be taking 1/4 inch from each side of these lines. And then I'm going to connect down. So this is the new line we're going to be using. Like this. So we're going to be cutting out this. So that's my dart. The next thing I'm going to do is from the chest line, I'm going to go down by 1 inch. I'll mark. And then I'll go in by 1/2 inch. And then I'll just draw out a mini line. So the next thing we need to do now is to create our cups, both for the center front and the side front. So this point where we went in by 1/2 inch, I'm going to connect it to the underbust. I'm using my curve ruler. I'll draw it to this point, and then for the top, I'll connect from here to this point. So this is one cup ready. So the next thing we need to do now is to create our shoulder for our corset top. So from here, I'm going to measure 1/2 inch. So I'm going to use my curve ruler to draw out the 1/2 inch. And then from this 1/2 inch now, I'm going to connect to the tip of the shoulder to this point. And then this our armhole line, I'm going to measure 1/2 inch outwards. And I'll mark. I will now connect from here to this underbust. So the next thing I'm going to do is to connect from here to the 1/2 inch with my curve ruler. Like this. So this is the second one. So after doing that, the next thing we need to do now is to plot in our circumference measurements. So on my chest line, it's 11 inches. So I'll measure and I'll mark. 11 inches puts me here and I'll mark, and then I'll add back the darts. Whatever amount of darts yours is, you add it back. And then I'm going to add 1 inch sewing allowance. And then for my waist circumference measurement, after calculation, mine is 9.5 inches. I'll mark. Then I will measure what my dart intake is, and then I'll add it back. So whatever yours is, add it back. And then I'm going to add 1 inch sewing allowance. And then for my length line, that's the top, mine is 11.75 for my circumference measurement. And then I'm measuring what my dart intake is. So whatever yours is, you add it back. And then I'm adding 1 inch sewing allowance. And then I'm going to connect my points. So this is my pattern. And then to create the basque effect, I'm going to be creating my basque effect from my waistline. So from my waistline, I'm going to go down by 2 inches and then I'll connect to the length line. You can decide you want to create your basque coming from your waistline, but I prefer mine to go down a bit. So I'm going to be getting my effect from 2 inches down and then I'm going to connect to the length line. So this is my cup 1, this is my center front. So center front, this is 1 and this is 2. And this we connect to this and this we connect to this, okay? And then when we are cutting out, this is what we're going to be cutting out. This part, and this is 3. So we'll have 3 pieces. This is 1, this is 2, and then this is the third one. So for the basque effect, you can just connect from your waistline all the way down to the length line. But I just want to give a bit of space. You can either do this or you go down by 2 inches. So I'm doing the going down by 2 inches and I drew a straight line down here. So this is our basque effect. So after drafting this, the next thing we're going to do is to draft the back. I'll draft the back before cutting out this pattern. So the next thing we need to do is to draft out the back. For the back, I have drafted out the basic bodies for the back and then I gave 1 inch zipper allowance. So this is our 1 inch zipper allowance. So and then for the neckline, you can decide to use whatever neckline of your choice. So this is me drafting this out, but this is not the neckline I'm going to be using. We're going to change this neckline. Make sure you label your work. So the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to draft out my darts. And then I'm going to be using my nipple to nipple measurement. This time I'm starting from the chest line. So mine is 4.5 inches and I'll mark on the chest line, on the bust line, waistline and the length line. I'll connect the points using my straight ruler all the way to the chest line. And then on the waistline, I'm going to open up my darts by 1/2 inch. That's 1 inch in total. I'm going to connect from here to the top and then to the bottom. And then this shoulder line, I'm going to get the midpoint just like we did for the front because we want the shoulders to match. And then I'm going to connect from that midpoint to the chest line. So after doing this, mind you, when you're drafting out your neckline, this is where you're going to be drafting from, not here. This was just when I was drafting out the basic bodies, okay? So whatever neckline you want, if you want a V neckline from here, you can connect that. And if you want a round neckline as well, you can connect from there. And then don't forget it's from here. I can decide to use a V neckline. This all depends on personal preference. So I'm connecting my neckline from here, okay? Let's do a round neck. You can make it deeper, but I want mine like this. So the next thing we're going to do now is I'm going to eliminate the zipper bulge. And I'm going to be doing that on the zipper line. So from the zipper, I'll go in by 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch on here. And then from there, I'll connect to the top and to the bottom. So I'm going in by 1/2 inch on here as well. So this is my new zipper allowance. By the time you take the measurement, you see, is 1 inch. It still ended up being 1 inch. So when we're cutting like this. And then now I'm going to take my measurements from here. So the next thing we need to do is to plot in my body circumference measurement. And I'm going to start from here. 11 inches, I've already marked that. Then I'm going to add 1 inch sewing allowance, just like I did for the front. And then my waist circumference measurement after calculation, mine is 9.5 inches. I'm going to measure 9.5 and I'll put it in here. Then I'm going to take my darts. So my dart here is 1 inch. So whatever yours is, you add it back. That's 1 inch. And then I'm going to add my 1 inch sewing allowance. That's that one. And then my hip circumference measurement is 11.75. So I take that measurement from there, 11.75. That puts me here. So for this, I'm going to add another paper at the bottom because I need to add sewing allowance to this. So I'm going to cut out this one and add another paper at the bottom. So my hip circumference measurement is 11.75. So 11.75 puts me here. And then I will add my 1 inch sewing allowance on here. And then I'm going to connect my points. So this is my back pattern. So the next thing we need to do now is cut out. This one, like with this back, you can do a V-neck as well. You can decide to do whatever neck you decide to do. And this is the back pattern. We're doing a zipper. I'll show you the patterns now and then we'll cut out. So for the back, you can decide to have a basque effect as well. Or if you do not want the basque effect, you just cut out on the waistline and then you can use that. So, but if you want to do a basque effect, then you need to do it exactly like we did for the front. So that's 2 inches down on the side, 2 inches, and then you connect to the end. So if you do not want the basque effect, you can just cut this out from the waistline and then use the pattern like that. Then if you want the basque effect, you have it. So these are our front and back patterns. The next thing I'm going to do now is to cut out this pattern. So I only added sewing allowances to the side. When I'm transferring to fabric, I will add the remaining sewing allowances. So these are the front patterns. I will now cut out the back pattern. So I've cut out the back and I've cut out the basque effect as well. And I've cut out the front and I've cut out the basque effect as well. So this is my back pattern. So these are my pattern pieces. This is the back and this is my front. So with these patterns, you can come up with different styles because it has an armhole, it has shoulders. So you can use any sleeves for this pattern. So with this pattern, I'm going to be creating different styles, different designs from it. And then you can decide to add back your basque so that it's a full corset top. And then you can cut off the waistline and then draft a different type of skirt to attach to it to give you another dress. This you can use for so many things. Like I said, you can add any type of sleeve. So these are our pattern pieces for both the front and the back. With these, we have come to the end of this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you have not done so already. And please share. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next tutorial. Take care and God bless.